Successful people accept the things they cannot change, have the courage to change the things they can, and possess the wisdom to know the difference. I'd like you to take a moment and to think about that, what I've just read to you. I'm going to read it again, and I want you to think about this statement. Successful people accept the things they cannot change, have the courage to change the things they can change, and possess the wisdom to know the difference. So essentially what this is saying is that we know that there are things that we cannot change, and we have to accept those things that we cannot change, that we know they just exist the way that they are, and it sort of is the way that it is, and we can't impact that. However, there are things that we can change. But how do we determine what those things are that we can change and those things that we can't change? What really it takes to understand that is a self-acceptance, an awareness of who we are, what we can do, and an awareness of why we don't change the things that we can change, but we decide not to. So that's what I'm going to talk about in this video segment today. This video segment will last about 10 minutes, and I'm going to talk to you about developing self-acceptance, which, in order to do so, in order to develop self-acceptance, you must develop self-awareness. At the beginning of this section in chapter 1 about developing self-acceptance, there's a story about a student who is in a writing class. And this student doesn't turn in his work. So the professor goes to the student and asks the student, what's going on? Why didn't you turn in your assignment? And the student said, I'm having family problems. It's prohibiting me from turning in the assignment. It's causing me other issues. Things are just piling up. I can't get this done. The student ends up not going to class, and the professor calls the student and says, you didn't turn in this work. What's going on? The student says, I can't seem to get back into the course, just have way too many things happening. I have, again, lots of family problems. Things just keep piling up on me. When somebody engages in that kind of excuses, then what you really have to think about is what's keeping this person from doing what he needs to do. What core beliefs does he have about himself that is causing him to use those things within his family situation in order to show, or in order to illustrate, this is why he cannot move forward academically? In the chapter, what they really talk about in the sense of this case is that it's really this person's self-esteem. And self-esteem is so interesting because a lot of times we don't recognize how our own self-esteem is affecting our behavior. We don't recognize that when I'm using excuses, that it might be due to my own self-esteem issues, that I feel that perhaps I can't do what I set out to do. And so I'm finding excuses to show other people that it's not me. It's not because that I'm incapable of doing it. It's because of all these other things outside myself. So what is self-esteem? Self-esteem is really how we feel about ourselves. And how we feel about ourselves really is tough to get at. I think a good way to start is by asking, who am I? Who do I think I am? And once we start to develop that list of who we think we are, and then we reflect upon who we think we are, then we get a sense of how do I feel about myself? Do I feel that do I feel good about myself? Do I feel like I'm an achiever? Do I feel like I can accomplish things? Do I think I'm productive and smart? Or do I have a low self-esteem where I don't really feel very good about myself? And I think that I'm probably not very smart and that I do poorly at a lot of things and I can't really achieve a lot. So how do we feel about ourselves, and how does that impact how we're doing in our classes? If we're doing poorly in a class, we tend to, as this book, your book talks about this one student, if people who have low self-esteem, if they're doing poorly in a class, they tend to protect their ego. They pretend to protect their self-esteem by saying things like, oh, I'm going to just drop the course, or, this professor was just a real jerk. I didn't like the professor. I just thought that the work in the course was overwhelming. It was just way too much. And so what I'm really saying about myself is I don't want to give myself a chance to fail. It's not about me. It's about everybody else outside of me that's causing me these issues and problems. And when we really dig deeper, when we're using that kind of logic that it's everybody else and not me, really what it ends up being is it is about me, and it's about my fear of failure. It's about my blaming everybody else for what's going on in my life because I don't want to be seen as a failure. But the interesting thing is when we look at high self-esteem, people who really have a strong belief in who they are, then they would not drop the course. That person who has a strong belief, if I have a strong belief in myself, I'd say, I'm not dropping this course. I'm going to continue to work my hardest to achieve my goal of passing this class. I am going to move towards success. Nothing is going to stand in my way because I know that I can do this. And I'm going to seek options in order to help me succeed. I know that maybe I have some challenges in this area, maybe math or science or English or communication is not my forte, is not really what I love to do, and maybe I have that limitation. But I know that if I really wanted to do this, I can if I have help. If I know what my weaknesses are in a particular area, that I can work on those weaknesses in order to achieve what I want to achieve. Maybe I seek tutoring, maybe I talk to my professor, and then I move forward. And the difference is one person who has the low self-esteem focuses on all of the problems, all of the weaknesses, where the other person focuses on the strengths and moving forward and doesn't see a setback as a defining moment in their life, only sees it as a setback. This is a tough course. I'm not doing well in it. And then continues to think about how it is that they're going to move forward. The person at the beginning of the book, I want to backtrack. Remember this story I told you about things are piling up, the student said, and I have family situations and things are out of my control. Years later, the professor meets this student again. And the professor says, what really happened during that time? And the student said, I was scared. My writing was very poor. I'd failed a lot of classes previously in writing, and I didn't think I could do it. So I quit. And when asked what's the difference between now and then, because he's back in college and he's succeeding, and the difference was, he said, and I sought help. I knew that this was an area that I needed assistance in. Not that I couldn't do it. I just needed some extra help. And I got that help. And in addition to that, I had to realize that I wasn't putting as much effort and time into it that I should have. A little bit lazy. And because of that laziness, I didn't do so well. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit about self-acceptance today and self-esteem because it is a key component of your academic success. Taking charge of your own areas that you know that you need to build upon. Again, finding those gaps that we talked about last time and some of the things that you might not know. So if you have a gap in your learning, that you find a way to fill in that gap by seeking assistance. But also, if you have a setback, if you have a challenge, that you don't give up and you don't see it as a reflection of a weakness within yourself, but rather you see it as something that will help you to strengthen whatever skills you need in order to succeed. But as I said at the beginning of this tape segment, the very first thing that we need to do is ask, who are we? So to get to the point of self-acceptance, the first thing that we need to think about is, who am I? How do I think about myself? Who do I think I am? And then from there, start to determine, who do I want to be? And how can I continue to build upon the person I am in order to become everything that I want and achieve everything that I want to achieve in life? Now that I've talked to you about self-development, I do want to remind you of your homework assignments. So the journal articles were collected this morning, and the self-assessment was collected this morning. And you also are going to have, this is your next assignment for next week, to read chapter 2. So by Monday, please have chapter 2 read. And I'm going to assign you your second journal entry, and that's going to be journal entry number 2, and that's on pages 53 to 54 in your book. 53 to 54 in your On-Course book. And the nice thing is, next week, I actually get to meet you, and I'm really looking forward to it. So have a great day, have a great weekend, and I'll see you soon.